What do you think on that? We'll transition to that topic, actually. I know it's not technically the players, but it was actually announced today, basically, from a legit source, based on what I heard, that Zonic basically will leave Astralis now. That's not, no one knows where he's going, as I've just said, but he will leave as a coach, which, even though it was actually reported, it could happen, like, I think a week ago or something by HLTV.org, if that was who the original source was. That was actually a out of left field move, too. Like, I speculated from things I'd heard. I didn't think he was happy for, like, I'm going to say, like, the last year or so, even a bit longer. I'd basically heard he was one of the people who didn't necessarily fuck with, like, the Kasmith wave. Because if people don't know, the problem I've heard from the Danish scene, I'm even talking the sports scene, I've had people reach out to me, not even in Counter-Strike. They just heard about the situation. They basically said, that guy is like the definition of a sports boomer. He thinks like sports is like, it's like a physical thing. Like, right, I'm going to get in the gym, give me 20. It's like, got to work. Oh, you guys want to quit early? You want a week off? That's not what a fucking champion does. And the problem was, he took that mentality and he brought it to what was already a team that could barely win any more than it did. And they were burned out to fuck. So I heard, unfortunately, a lot of the players got put off. What people don't know, though, is the reason it took this long is because in the meantime, they re-upped with insane contracts that were like mega bucks money. And so at the time they thought, whatever, we'll put up this for now. Maybe we can get the breaks like a couple of them did. Obviously, they got to enjoy the money. In fact, it turned out because we were online, they got to sort of enjoy the money, not even with the normal sort of travel lag that you have where you have to be wrecked going around the world. So what do you think about this, Pip? Obviously, it's pretty crazy. Just thinking of Zonic not in Astralis, just that move doesn't seem right. The players, obviously the team's had its issues,
sure.
But the idea of Zonic not, and the idea that he goes to another team, it's hard, it's crazy to even imagine, right?
It is crazy to imagine, and I think that will be, that will be the signal of the death of Astralis in that sense, or at least the Astralis we know it in Denmark, right? Of course, it's connected to whatever else is going on within Astralis. We'll probably talk about the rumors with gla1ve and what's going to happen with the rest of the players, right? But I think in general, Zonic is not the guy you want within Astralis to rebuild a squad. You don't have Zonic as a head coach to rebuild an entire team, which I think Astralis will have to, right? That team, and let's pretend the Magic is going to complexity, Sipnik somewhere else, gla1ve may or may not stay, you have another guy in Dupree who may or may not go to NIP, has been rumored as well. You don't want Zonic to lead a rebuild of Astralis. I think Hunton, for an example, who's also been rumored to Astralis, is much better to build up talent. It's much better to foster up talent, and especially if he's going to work with gla1ve on that one. So for Zonic, it makes complete sense to me that he don't want to be part of the whole rebuild in Astralis, and Astralis for that matter as well, if I got to take that stance on it as well. Do you want to pay Zonic mega bucks because you have to, because he's probably one of the most expensive coaches, I would say, in the world, or at least, given by the records and what he's achieved? Do you want to pay a guy that much money, given that you may not get the most out of that money because you know that he may not be as invested into it because he's already unsatisfied or unhappy with what's going on? I think it makes complete sense for both parts. I think it'll be great to see Zonic, if you want to continue his career somewhere else, to see if he can do it again with someone else that would also add another level to his career, right? You talk about the Pep Guardiolas in football. He can only win with Messi. He can only win with Bayern Munich, right? Or Manchester City, where all the money is. But if you take Zonic and you put him in complexity and you make Zonic win with complexity, that would add a whole new degree to his legacy, I guess, as a coach. Whether or not he has that motivation to do that, whether he's even interested in that, or he just wants to cash out, as you're saying as well. He does have a family, he does have a child. He's been in the game for forever, basically started playing 1.6 before I was even born. I don't know, but from the pure standpoint, from Astralis' point of view, makes sense. You don't want to pay that much money for a coach who's not invested into the whole rebuild. And for Zonic's point of view, why would you go into this period of 1 year, maybe 2 years, where Astralis is going to be nowhere near a major contending team? To me, it makes complete sense.
What do you think on any angle you want on that, Dust?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that Pim just said. I think that he pretty much hit the nail on the head. And I think at this point now, it's just Zonic has to choose what he wants to do with his life. Does he want to retire? Does he want to stay involved as a coach? Does he want to move into more of a GM type situation for an organization? I mean, I feel like the world is kind of his oyster in that regard. I feel like he kind of has a pick of the litter on what he wants to do. I mean, if I'm just thinking about coaching in pure perspective, I think that the only teams that really make sense for him to do if he's not going to be with Astralis is either going over to Heroic or going over to Complexity, because that's like where the most collection of Danish players seems to be if he wants to stay on that route, especially if Complexity does go ahead and pick up Magus, which, by the way, as we're recording this, it's been officially announced that Rush has been benched. So it does seem like we're very much trending in that direction. So I think that would make, perfect sense for him to be kind of a part of that project, depending on what he wants to do. Again, I think that Zonic right now will probably have so many options Like it's going to be unreal what type of offers he's going to get. And it really just comes down to what he personally wants to do, what he's passionate about, what he, feels is best for him personally. It's a massive loss for Astralis. As Pimp said, it's not going to ever be even remotely close to the same Astralis anymore. It's going to be a whole new thing. It's like the biggest piece they could have lost outside of Device or gla1ve is Zonic, and very much the identity of that team. Regarded as the best coach in CSGO perhaps of all time, and whoever gets Zonic is going to massively benefit, and Astralis is going to take a huge L here, as they are just continuously doing right now.
I have to say, the angle that Pimp had of like, this will kind of be a way. He spun it the positive way, which is obviously if he goes and succeeds elsewhere, then no one can say, you had gla1ve, you had Device, no one could do that angle, right? The problem is though, like, I do have my question marks about that, because it's not that like he's not great. Like, listen, he had an amazing resume, and if you just heard the stories of some of the things with the players, it sounds like he's a great coach. Like even that thing from a few years ago, which I thought was fucking next level when I heard it. You remember when gla1ve just started like fragging way above the level he should, and then the rumor was, in scrims, Zonic just calls the strats, gla1ve just like frags out in positions, and then in the actual officials is when gla1ve called. That's some genius level shit. Like other people are still fixing, like putting fires out. They are on some level where they can start doing that. So like stuff like that is mad innovative. It's one of the reasons also, by the way, why I hate when people like overestimate that it's Astralis or the fucking sports psychologists who did everything. It's like, mate, it's the people who are endemic to CS, as far as I can tell, help the CS in the server. Those guys just got them paid, which is an important aspect, but it's different from building the play. It's not like we're not football yet, where you can actually have a real academy thing that's bringing players to. That's still a few years away from the true development in that sense. Really, the player's as good as he is. It's on him and the players he's with and his coach and all. So I believe he was a part of that. But I do think to myself, Pimp, with every element, you do the same with the IGL, you do the same with the star player. You always have to think, what would it be without this piece? Or what would it be with the worst piece next to them? And the problem is, if I'm Zonic, especially the lineup that had fucking Megaskin, mate, you could barely ask for better players. Like those already were, when he got them, were like 5 of the top 10 Danish players to ever play CSGO. And then you look, there's like perfect roles. It's unbelievable how they made that work. So some of these things, it's not that like he didn't do any of that. It's just that that's not going to be the case in other teams you're playing. Like, as by the way, the people he's talking about there, as the Mourinhos and Pep Guardiolas of the world found out, you don't always get to be in Barcelona or the original Chelsea or Real Madrid. Like sometimes you have to go to the team where you got a couple of pieces, and you got this other piece that might be good, and then you got a piece that's not actually that good, and then you're hoping you can get, basically you get to experience life for the rest of us. He was sort of in like the prime coaching spot. And I have always thought, because I've been able to do this interesting contrast where I tried to use actually the Mourinho Guardiola angle in the same way as that's actually the angle by which you judge IGLs. So the obvious ones is Carrigan would be Mourinho in this sense, moving around all the time. You got success in totally different regions, and it was more like the idea he comes in, he takes you quickly, you succeed, and then he moves on if he needs to. And obviously the Guardiola, I know now he's sort of done the Mourinho route himself, but obviously for a long time he was with the one team. It was his team. He built it up from the beginning. Simple. That's obviously in IGLs. That'd be like what gla1ve was in Astralis. That's why you can do that interesting like 1A, 1B thing with it. To be fair, you can do it with coaches. Like my two for the coaches I personally pick is I do the same thing with Zeus and Zonic. Zeus went everywhere, mate, and there's only basically one team he wasn't successful with, and that was the one he actually won the majors with 4 years earlier. But it's just when he did his sort of last dance one where they weren't very good as a team. Other than that, remember, he succeeded in like different Team Liquid squads. Oh mate, this guy went all over the place and had success. Then you go, obviously, Zonic just stayed in one place and did that. So I always wonder what happens when you try and go and do what the other guy did. Because, by the way, if you can do it, as you say, it can, in some people's minds, it'll end a discussion. You just go instantly if you go to another team and you make... Like, if he took any of these teams that aren't top 5 right now to the top, I mean, that's the ultimate, right?
But that's where he has to be careful, right? Because I agree with you. I think he's a different type of coach, and different types of coach suits different kind of teams and different kind of personalities. I see Sonic more as if you want to keep it in the football references, more like a Carlo Ancelotti, right? I believe he went out saying he can't teach Cristiano Ronaldo to play football. He can't teach Cristiano Ronaldo anything about football, but what he can do is facilitate him and make sure that he feels comfortable in whatever system they're playing and whatever way they practice or whatever the daily life they have or whatever routine they have before a game, whenever they go on a away game. He can make it as comfortable as possible for Cristiano Ronaldo, right? That's what he went out saying publicly. Same thing when you had Device. Sonic cannot teach, as you said, Sonic cannot teach Device or Magix or gla1ve for that matter to be a better Counter-Strike player. He can maybe put in once in a while. He can maybe facilitate them, make sure they feel comfortable, make sure that he evens out any disagreements that may be within the team. I see, and that's not taking anything away from Sonic, but I think he found his role within Astralis to be not only, of course, this peacemaker within the players, within the team who found the balance between it all, but also had a little bit of strategical insight to the team as well, helping gla1ve with calling and all that kind of stuff. But I see it more as a full balance, right? He was not the guy who came in and made, with all disrespect, right, and gla1ve or Sonic may disagree with that, but from the outside, I didn't see him make gla1ve a better Counter-Strike player. I don't see him make Device a better Counter-Strike player. But what I think he did so well is he found the balance between being the good cop and the bad cop, right? He was having the players back whenever the orcs were telling them, well, you have to go to the gym, you have to go to do this media, you have to do this, right? So when the players were unsatisfied with that, they could go to Sonic, and they knew Daddy Sonic, he would be aggressive with that. He wouldn't be happy with that, right? So he was constantly creating a balance with the team where everyone felt comfortable. And as you said, I agree, they had 5 of the best players to ever play Counter-Strike in Denmark at the same time with the perfect roles. Can Sonic do that again in a team like Complexity? Maybe. Is that what Complexity need? I don't think so. I think they need a very strategical-minded coach. I think a guy like Hunter, for an example, would be a perfect fit for Complexity because they need some more depth within the squad. They need a better system. And I'm not too sure Sonic is that kind of coach. Can he be the best coach in the world? On the right team, sure, but he has to find a team that fits him perfectly, where his main role is to create a balance in between the players and not necessarily invent the new system or invent the new way of playing Counter-Strike or create a new meta. Because I don't think Sonic has ever done that, outside of a player like gla1ve. And that's also what I want to rate as well. I think without gla1ve, Sonic wouldn't be considered as much as a strategical genius as he is as a coach, because I'm very biased towards gla1ve. Of course, my relationship with him, but I think gla1ve is the smartest mind to ever play Counter-Strike, and that must have been a very nice thing for Sonic as well. He must have learned a shit ton just by playing with gla1ve, by then being able to be the caller once in a while whenever he needed a break.
Sure. I will say, by the way, just apologies that we're just spamming you with fucking football references. And you're like, bro, I'm from North America. I get there. I might watch the World Cup, but I'm not fucking watching the Premier League. So fair enough on that one. With that said, though, I do think another angle that people will have to consider, you mentioned that you had a family, right? That is actually, in my opinion, probably top of the list. One of the things people won't know about the Astralis players is, even though they did actually get that nice run of success where they won tournaments late last year, the whole period ever since the 2 players went on leave, as it were, they've never really been the same Astralis since. And they already had started to look, what are the options? Do we bring someone in? Do we stay together? Do we leave? Now it looks like most of them are splitting apart. I will say, I already told, in Flashpoint, you can imagine, I was telling so many of the orgs, listen, this is what you do. Tell Sonic he can either be coach or GM, whichever role he wants. But the idea is you're going to pay him a blank check as much as he wants, and he's going to do your project, basically. But I did tell them, though, the bad news is most of you are NA orgs, and I don't think a guy with a family who gets to live in Denmark currently and work with a team in Denmark currently is going to want to move across the other side of the world. And by the way, some of that was before we even had all this shit where, who knows how many times you'd have to quarantine and go back and forth. So, I do think that probably limits the number of teams necessary. I know there's not many NA orgs, but, for example, I would have said, if I was someone like Liquid after losing that many times to Astralis, I might be like, yeah, get the fucking coach that did that. But then again, does he want to live in America? I don't know. Probably not, So, and also, I imagine, whereas the other ones, I've heard with a lot of the other ones do just want money. I think even though I can understand the Sweden angle, I think Device also wanted money as well. I think he wanted different things, I think each player wants something different at this point in their career, because realistically, if you wanted to just win again, you'd probably just keep the whole team and go somewhere else. That was an option if you wanted. In fact, as people might know, Cloud9 could have had him last year. So my problem with this whole thing is I feel like it's probably limited which options you can get from Sonic. And as you say, Pimp, it's not as simple as he was the best, so just put him on any team and he'll succeed. Because in fact, I'll teach you about football. If you know anything about football, actually the careers of people like Mourinho show you this. It's not about whether they're good or bad now. They have to be on the right team. If you give them the wrong team, they can do well because they are brilliant people. But it's just not the right pieces, not the right style for them, for example. So you also have to get the right style. And that's part of the issue I have as well. Because here's another thing I always thought was overblown about Astralis. We talked about this actually on a past episode we did, Pimp. It's the idea that you can ask people who are winning 3 out of 4 tournaments to do the maximum practice. You can ask them to go really hard. You can ask everything of them, basically. You can tell them, I need you to be a model professional. You have to get up early in the morning. You have to do your gym. You have to do your fucking diet. You have to do that. Problem is, try telling a guy that when they're on the run phase was on online. Some of them, especially if they're superstar players, they're just going to sort of tell you politely to fuck off, or they're just going to half do, they're going to turn up and, I'm jogging a bit when you tell me, sorry, I'm half an hour late. They get players, it's not as simple, like I said on that past episode, it's not as simple as just telling every other team in the world, do that. It's a nice idea if you could, but to get that buy-in's crazy. So that'll also be a test he'll have to face, by the way, is he has to go into a totally new environment Maybe with totally new players. Maybe it's players he's never coached before. We don't know where he goes yet. And he has to get them all to buy into whatever he wants. I'm also interested, is that even his vision? Was that part of the Astralis idea? Were they trying to go more sports? Maybe because he's old school. Maybe he wants to pare it down and go back to the old school way of doing it. Who the fuck knows? I actually think the Zonic one's the one with the most question marks. Some of the other ones we can sort of fit because we've seen them play. The problem with coaching is you're always speculating what they do, isn't it? You can't really know what they do in the game. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.